Hi everybody, it's Melissa from Welcome to the Woods. Today I get to show you what I did to upgrade the ceiling on our front porch. As you probably know from the recent repost I did, our exterior got a huge makeover last year with siding, soffits, gutters, fascia, and the porch area we decided not to have soffitted just because it was going to be really expensive. I also decided that there was just a lot of black and white. We need to bring a little warmth back into the design and that this ceiling would look perfect wood planked. So let me show you how I did it. I did it really cheap and fast. It took me 3 days and it cost me just a little over $80. Now the ceiling that was on the front porch I think is original. It had the very skinny wood planks. They were running vertically along the length of the porch, and I was looking for a solution that would be really easy to just tack on to what was existing so I didn't have to do any demolition. What I decided on was cutting strips of very thin plywood to the same width and then running it horizontally across the ceiling perpendicular to what was already there. That way the nails that I put in, just the brad nails, would hold better. And the great thing is that the width of the porch was shy of 8 feet. So buying a 4x8 sheet of plywood, my strips that I cut are wide enough that I don't need to stagger planks or anything. Every plank can be the full width of the porch. So what I did was I went to the hardware store and I got 7 sheets of 1/8 inch thick, very, very thin plywood. And since I went to Home Depot, they cut it for you for free, like the first 4 cuts or whatever are free. So I had them rip all of the 4x8s in half, then they could fit in my van. I stacked up all of the plywood, well not all of it, but half of it. I stacked it up so it was thicker, like 1 inch thick. And then I could use the guide that's part of my circular saw, and I could run that along and just set the guide to be 5 7/8 inches wide. And the reason I did it just slightly shy of 6 inches is that I was allowing for the curve of the blade because of exactly 4 foot wide plywood wouldn't end up in the same size plank unless you allow for that. Does that make sense? So anyway, I ran all those strips and then I stacked them up and I basically polyacryliced all the edges as they were all stacked. This just made it faster and easier to get them all coated. This is to prevent any moisture from absorbing into the plywood planks. I don't think I'll have that issue because they're never exposed to rain or anything, but it does get kind of humid in Minnesota during the summer, so I just wanted to protect from that. Then the next day I started nailing them onto the ceiling. I'm using an air compressor brad nailer combination that I got years ago as a gift for Christmas. It's really not an expensive tool and it's very useful if you're going to do any kind of trim work or anything with like smaller projects. Brad nailers are great. So I'll drop one in the description on this video. So I just put my first slat up on the ceiling to get started, and then from then on I used a quarter to get the exact same spacing between each plank. The great thing about the solution though was that all of the white planks that were running vertically, they had so many issues like holes drilled in them or gaps, or they had kind of moved up and down over time. And because I was using such thin plywood, I was able to just cover it, nail it up quickly, and handle each plank all by myself, even getting the spacing of the quarter. It took a little practice, but by the end I was pretty efficient, just basically bouncing between 2 ladders across the plank and getting everything nailed in. So it just took time. This was a tedious project, but the result afterwards is stunning, and I hope that you are impressed with it. I hope I gave you an idea on how you can very easily update a ceiling or plank something that doesn't get a lot of use. I wouldn't use this for like a floor, but since it's just visual and the ceiling, the white planked ceiling is still there, this is really just an aesthetic upgrade. So the other thing was the obstacle of the light. That really wasn't an issue for me. I didn't have to disconnect the electrical. I just unscrewed the fixture, let it hang down, and then I I planked around it. One plank ended up basically covering the entire circle light fixture, and I cut it out with like a multi-oscillating tool, just because the plank was really, really long. So a multi-oscillating tool is the right thing because I could just plunge it into the circle where I needed to cut it out. And I did end up just cutting this piece in half to get it to put one side in, put the other side in, and then replace the light. So that was pretty simple. Now I didn't check if the first plank that I laid was exactly square with the ceiling or with the walls, because the house is so old that no matter what I had tried to get it square, it wouldn't have been perfect. So I just eyeballed it, and when I got to the end, after, you know, every single plank had been laid, and then at the end you kind of see like how off was I. I was only off by about an inch. Like one side was like 4 1/4 and one other side was 2 3/4, 1.5 inches, I guess. But that was okay with me. I just cut it at an angle with my circular saw and had everything clamped down just to get that to be a good, perfect fit. So then to finish off the ceiling, once all the planks were installed, I'm going to come across and roll polyacrylic on the actual surface of the board, not just those edges that I did earlier. So I rolled that with a foam roller, a mini roller, and it would have been better if I had like a foam 9-inch roller on a stick, but I didn't. So just gave my arms a workout, and it took me only like an hour. It was fine. Then, after the polyacrylic was up, I just cleaned up the edge by installing some Cove, an 8-foot long boards of Cove. It's like a curved trim piece. The Cove just allows me to close the gap between the ceiling and the wall. There was just some areas there that didn't look good. That's my idea. I hope you were impressed. And like I said, I think I paid like $81 or $82 for the 7 sheets of plywood at Home Depot and brought it home, and then did this whole thing with everything else I already had, the brad nails and the nailer and the tools. I hope you were impressed with this. I have a lot more coming up. This is just the beginning of my porch makeover. I have so many plans. I'll run through some here now, but if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of those makeovers or any of those projects coming up, don't forget to subscribe to my channel or follow my page so that you don't miss anything, and just hit that notification bell. Then you'll get a little notification every time that I post. So the plans I have coming up for the porch: I'm going to skim coat the foundation and paint that. I'm going to do a fix, like a patch on the floor, where I paint a DIY rug because there's an area where the top step had kind of gotten rotten. I'm going to clean and probably repaint the railing. I am going to replace the door on the little like area, playroom area. It's like a clubhouse or garden shed maybe, attached to the front porch. It's just this kind of weird door off to the side. I'm really going to revamp a lot in that room. Right now, I'm just replacing the door and painting it and fixing it up. And then the thing I'm most excited about is I'm going to build a bed swing. I'm so excited. It's a design that I came up with in my head, and I can't wait to show you guys. Hopefully it works out the way I imagine it, and that's coming up. So it's going to be very modern and hopefully very pretty. I hope that you were inspired, and we'll see you again next week on Welcome to the Woods. Bye-bye!